didn't really know that you were supposed to study for the SAT. Like India, it's a test. Let's get her done. Okay. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. For those that don't know me, my name is India. Welcome. For those who have been here, who saw my last video, it's nice to see you. Let's get into this video. Let me catch my breath. Okay, today's video is the second video in my Dear Class of 2026 and Beyond series, and it is titled How I Got In. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about how I got into my schools, everything that is specific to me as far as stats, resume, recommendations, all that stuff, my personal journey. So yeah, we're gonna get into it so we can get out. If you have not seen my first video, what was that video? Oh, it was just an overview of everything, and it was like an introduction to the series. You definitely want to watch that because it does go in a little bit more detail of everything that I'm gonna say today. So I'm just gonna do a little rundown. I'm gonna talk about where I applied to and got accepted, when I applied, my GPA and stats, my essays and recommendation letters, my resume, building your resume, and my experience, as well as scholarships. So first things first, where did India apply? India applied to Howard University, Tuskegee University, Spelman College, Clark Atlanta University, Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, Georgia State, and North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. I got in to all 7, so we're gonna dive right in. If you are someone that has applied to one of these schools and wants to know how to get in, what my stats were, keep watching because this is for you. So yes, those were the schools that I applied to originally. Not even originally, forever I wanted to go to an HBCU. So as you saw, 6 out of 7 of those schools were HBCUs, and the one that wasn't is a minority-led school where majority of the population is minorities, and that's Georgia State. So I did apply to basically all HBCUs. I knew that's where I was destined to go, so that is where I applied. I applied to 7 schools, and my advice to you is if you qualify for a fee waiver, I talk about this more in my last video. I'll link it up here. Go click on it, go watch it. If you qualify for a fee waiver, apply to as many schools as you want to, especially if you are trying to go to an HBCU. Why? Because basically most of these HBCUs that I applied to, and a long list of others, are not very giving when it comes to money, but there are a long list of other HBCUs that are willing to give you money. So if you are trying to go to an HBCU, apply to as many as you can, because your SAT score at one school might get you a full ride at another. So yeah, apply to as many as you can if you qualify for a fee waiver. If you don't, I did not, then you want to make sure you choose your schools wisely and apply wisely, because each of these applications can range from about $25 to about $65. So yeah, they're expensive, so choose wisely. I chose my 7 wisely. Now, when did India apply? I applied during the early decision timeline, which is typically from about July to maybe like November. I highly recommend anyone applying to college apply during that timeline if you meet the requirements for the colleges that you are trying to apply to. So basically that means, say, to get into Georgia State, you have to have an 1100 SAT. If you have an 1100 SAT and you have the GPA that you need and the recommendations and all that stuff together, you should be applying to Georgia State during early action and early decision. You should not be waiting until regular decision to apply to Georgia State, because if you want scholarships and if you just want to have everything dealt with, why wait? Okay, so definitely apply the early action, early decision timeline. That is when I applied. I applied early action for everything. Early action is not binding, which means I can apply to however many schools as I want. It's the same thing as regular decision, just a different time frame. early decision, if you apply to that school, you are going to that school. So that's typically for like athletes or someone that just knows they're going to that school. I don't recommend doing it if you are not sure. Stick with the early action. Okay. I feel like I'm talking a little fast, but I don't want this to be a real long video, so I'm gonna keep going. Now, as far as test optional, I feel like class of 2026 and beyond won't have that option, but I'm just gonna say it so that you know. For me, I did not do the test optional. I didn't do test optional for majority of the schools. I think I did for Spelman, and that's it. So I did test optional for Spelman because I was a little scared about my SAT score, but I mean, I still got it, so you know, it's whatever. But everything else, I submitted my test scores. Now, my GPA and my stats. My GPA when I applied to colleges was a 4.1 weighted and a 3.99 unweighted. So I just want to say really quickly, because I know what some people might be thinking, these are pretty high stats. If you don't have that 4.1, if you don't have a 4.0, if you don't have a 3.9, please do not worry. Colleges are not focused on your GPA. They are not focused on your SAT scores to let you in. What they are focused on are your accolades as far as, you know, what you've been involved in, your resume, your recommendation letters, and your essays. That's what they want. So please focus on that, and please do not stress over your GPA and your SAT scores. So one of the major reasons why your junior year is your most important year is because if you are applying to college, like when you should, if you are able to, during that first semester, you're gonna be using your GPA that you had to end with your junior year to end. You're gonna be using the GPA you ended your junior year off with that. So you wanna make sure junior year you're going hard so that you can, you know, apply to colleges with these high GPAs. So I had a 4.1 weighted GPA, a 3.99 unweighted GPA. My SAT score, it wasn't where it needed to. It wasn't giving. I had a 1270 SAT. Some people may say that's really good, but for my standards, I didn't really know that you were supposed to study for the SAT, and you're probably gonna be like, India, it's a test. But I didn't know like you actually like study for it, so I just went in and took it. Don't do that. Study for the SAT. Do what you have to do to get the highest score, because the higher your score, the higher merit scholarship you will get. Literally. Schools don't really care about your SAT score to accept you in as long as you like meet the requirement. But if you want a merit scholarship, they are looking at your SAT score. So please test as much as you can, get it up, get it up, get it up. But yeah, I had a 1270 SAT. And as far as like GPA, or actually I'll do that later. I'll talk about the classes I took to like get my GPA. I'll talk about that later. So I actually forgot to talk about this, but pretty much I took I took 3 AP classes. I took 1 freshman year, 2 sophomore year, and that's really like pushed my GPA up and gave me, you know, that 4.1 for my junior year. And then junior and senior year, I strictly took dual enrollment classes because, you know, AP is a scam. So yes, 4.1 weighted GPA, 3.99 unweighted GPA, 1270 SAT, and that is how I got into Howard, Spelman, Famu, Ncat, Tuskegee, Clark Atlanta, and Georgia State. Okay, so I didn't really like how I worded that. So once again, I'm just gonna say, please do not stress over your GPA and your SAT scores. I know people with like a 3.2, 3.5 that were able to get into, you know, Spelman and Howard over somebody else that got deferred or declined with a 4.0 GPA. So please do not focus on GPA. Focus on your accolades, your resume, and your essays and recommendations. Now, I also noted in here to note that some schools are not on Common App, but I talk about all that stuff in my last video. So if you really need a lot of information about the application process and just tips about applying to colleges, you should really watch my last video. Again, I will link it up here or up here. I don't know which side it's gonna be on. I'll link it. Go watch it. Now, essays and recommendations, these are very, very important. So for essays, you're given 1 out of 5 prompts. I probably should have researched which prompt I used, because I don't really remember. But you just want to make sure you write about something that highlights who you are as a person, what you've done, what you've accomplished, that kind of things, you know, barriers you've overcome. And then you just want to keep asking yourself what would make your essay stand out from someone else. Because remember, when you're applying to colleges, there are thousands, hundreds, there's just a lot of students that have the same SAT score as you or better, the same GPA as you or better, the same recommendations or recommendation types or better. So you just want to make sure that your essay, and you really want to make sure your recommendations as well, just highlight who you are as a person and make you stand out of the crowd, because that's how you get in and that's how you get opportunities. So I didn't really write what my essay was about, and I don't really remember, but I wrote about me being like an entrepreneur. I think Miss Girl, what is you doing? Anywho, I'm pretty sure for my essay I wrote about starting a business and what it was like, self-financing my business, just coming up with ideas and just everything. Synai, Symone, you know, if you don't know that I have a business, I have a business. I will link it in the description. Go check it out. You know, I make handmade hair care products. Okay, that's not the video. Okay. Now, I'm pretty sure I wrote about just starting my business, when I started it, how like just my process of doing it. And I think I also might have talked about buying my first car, I think, because I had to get a job at 14 and I had to save up for my car. So you want to use stuff like that, like stuff that highlights the hard work you've done, what you've been through within your life, how you've prospered. So you don't want to just give an issue. You want to give, you know, something that's happened in your life, how you've, you know, broken barriers, how you've overcome those hardships. That's what you want to talk about. So don't just give an issue, give something that highlights who you are. So for me, that was, you know, getting a job at 14, missing out of, you know, some things that typical 14-year-olds would do, because I was working so that I could buy my car at 16 and so I could start my business and finance my business. So you just want to choose something like that, that is, you know, that caters to who you are. Right about that. Now, recommendations. First things first, choose a notable recommender. Don't use family, don't use friends, choose somebody that is notable. You're gonna have to have a counselor recommendation, but that doesn't have to be one of your 3. I recommend you get 3 recommendations, 4 including your counselor. So your counselor does not have to be a part of your, you know, your 3. They don't have to be a part of it. I don't recommend they are. For me, I use my principal, I use one of my college professors, and I use one of my teachers who was my reg ed teacher. He was my AP teacher, and he was my club sponsor for a club that I started at my school. Those were my 3 recommenders, and then I also had my counselor recommendation. When you are getting these recommendations, please, please, please have all of your recommendations done before the first week of school is over. Or not done, but like have your email sent out to your teachers before the first week of school is over, so that you can have your recommendations before they get, you know, flooded with a lot of students asking them for a recommendation. So get your recommendations up front, send that email out at the end of the summer, have your stuff together, because you don't want to have to be on anybody else's time come time to apply for colleges. Now, with that, get a copy of your recommendations. Now, I talked about this in my other videos, so I'm not going to say a lot on it. Get a PDF copy of your recommendation. I talked about in my other video, you know, how to word your email, so just watch that because I'm not going to say it again. But get a PDF copy of it so that you can have it for scholarships, because you are going to need it for scholarship applications. They want recommendations, and you don't want to have to keep emailing your recommenders and asking them to submit it to that platform if they don't have to. Next, resume building. My resume is very strong. If you don't have a resume, please look it up. Look up templates and just begin filling out stuff. You want to brag about anything that you've done. If you've been a babysitter, brag about that. You know, if you volunteered at church, brag about that. You just want to get stuff that highlights who you are, that is on a community service basis, on an academic basis, on an athletic basis, on a fine arts basis. You just want to highlight who you are as a person. Your resume is supposed to tell somebody who you are before you can tell them who you are. Okay, so make sure it is good. Now, for me, on my resume, what really stood out, my jobs. I've had 2 jobs. I worked at Brewster's when I was 14, and then I left there, and then like 2 months or like a month later, I got a job at Target, which is where I work now. And then I also am a self-finance entrepreneur, so my business is on my resume. With that, I've done a lot of community service, whether through academic organizations or like my church. I was also an intern for a nonprofit organization through the work-based learning program. Highly advise you do work-based learning. Please do it. So yeah, that's my like service section. Then awards and accolades. I've received a lot of awards. I was a junior marshal. I graduated with honors, top 6% in my class. What else? I got a couple of athletic awards through like volleyball, like most dependable athlete, and then an academic award because I had a 4.1 GPA as an athlete. As far as clubs and organizations, I was in Beta Club. I was class president, sophomore through senior year. I started the first Black student union at my school, and I was president. What else was I in? I was in a lot of clubs. I was in FBLA. I was very involved within that. I also did a couple of summer programs. I was in Howard University's summer program for business. It was like Seek something for entrepreneurship. I was in the Black Girls Lead program. I was in the ACAP program, like the Accounting Career Awareness program for, I can't even think of the name of it. But I did like summer programs, and that was catered to business because I'm going to be a business major. You definitely want to see if you can find programs, and if you can, that looks great on your resume because it's catered towards what you actually want to do. I completed the entrepreneurship pathway at my school and the banking and investing pathway. Those were two business pathways that we had at my school. I completed those. If you can complete a pathway within your niche, do that and put that on your resume because it looks good when you have stuff on your resume that's catered towards your career, whether it's an internship, whether it's a pathway at school, whether it's a summer program. Just try and do stuff that's catered towards your career because they love to see that. As with that as well, I was also in orchestra. I quit sophomore year because it conflicted with my business pathway, so I quit for a reason. But I was also in orchestra. I was chair, concert master, and first chair. I played the violin. That's on my resume. I also played volleyball. I played varsity. I was captain. So put that on your resume. I played club volleyball, so I played volleyball year round. Just get involved. I was involved in everything, literally. Put it on your resume. Get involved and put it on your resume. If you're not involved, then get involved. It takes nothing to literally volunteer at, a shelter, at a food drive. Get involved. You have time. You have an entire school year to get involved and to build your resume. You can do it. Join a club next year. Join a couple of clubs next year. But when you join clubs, seek leadership positions. So for me, that was, being president of the Black Student Union, being class president. I was also nominated to be on my Superintendent Student Advisory Council, which is not a common thing. So that was like really big on my resume. Just get involved, Now, as far as scholarships, because this is what everybody wants to know, I'm going to make a scholarship video, so I'm not going to be saying a lot on this. All right. So for scholarships, watch my video. I will link it up here, but it is not created yet, so you're going to have to wait. As far as scholarships, I received with my stats, I will try and pop it up right here, my stats. For Howard, they waited a long time to let me know what my scholarship was. I really would have been a bison if it wasn't for this scholarship. But I received the HU Achiever Scholarship. Howard, they're like really secretive on their scholarships, so there's like no place on their website that says, okay, you have to have this SAT score, this GPA for this scholarship. They don't have that. You just know when you know. I received the HU Achiever Scholarship, which was $20K a year. Not bad, but Howard is about $50K a year, so it wasn't, nah. Tuskegee, I received the University Merit Scholarship. Now, Tuskegee University is one of those universities where if your SAT score qualifies for a scholarship, you're getting the scholarship. And this is actually one of the HBCUs that I highly recommend you apply to because of the money aspect. If you have a 1300 SAT score, you will have a full ride to Tuskegee University. I was 30 points under. You can only imagine how mad I was. I was 30 points under, and my scholarship, the University Merit Scholarship, was full tuition plus a stipend, but I still had to pay for, books and housing and all that stuff, which does add up because they are a private institution. But yeah, if you have a 1300 at Tuskegee University, you have a full ride, baby. So apply to Tuskegee, please. Apply to a lot of other universities that are, you know, willing to pay for your education, that value the students and your scores. You worked hard on your scores. Tuskegee will reward you for your scores, okay? I can't say that for, you know, these other schools. They, you know, them top 5 HBCUs be real stingy with the money. But I would have had I applied test optional to Tuskegee, which wasn't an option when I applied because I applied so early, I would have had a full ride. Because it was people with SAT scores lower than mine that applied test optional that got a full ride, and that's a whole other story. I was on the phone with financial aid. That's HBCUs for you, okay? Because I didn't have the option to apply test optional, but that's besides the point. Spelman. Trim. Fuzz was tripping, okay? Because Spelman gave me $1,500. Now, with Spelman, I feel like maybe money for them comes from maybe specific schools. So like the school of blank, because they don't have a school of business. I was applying as a political science major, but I feel like maybe that's where the money would have came from, because they didn't really give nobody any money. I got $1,500 from Spelman. But I knew I wasn't going to Spelman anyway when I changed from the political science back to business. So I honestly wasted my money even applying to Spelman. But, you know, I still got in. So, you know, it's still, you know, it's good to know that I was able to get into the #1 HBCU. Now, Ncat, I didn't get no money from them either. But I was in the running for their little presidential scholarship or whatever it is, where you get a full ride to everything. You get a stipend, you get a laptop. I was in the running for that, but then I got eliminated in the last round, which was kind of upsetting. But I didn't really want to go to Ncat anyway, so I wasn't too upset because I knew for me it was either going to be Howard, FAMU, or Tuskegee. So I didn't get any money financial aid wise from Ncat, but I could have, because they did give me opportunities with the presidential scholarship, and then their business school had opportunities for scholarships. So it's not like, they're not like Spelman. You know, they gave me opportunities to get scholarships. I just didn't apply myself for the business scholarships, and then I didn't get the presidential scholarship. Clark Atlanta. I got the merit scholarship from Clark Atlanta University. It was for $10,000. I did not have to apply for that scholarship. It was just given to me. But Clark Atlanta University's tuition and fees or their cost of living is around the same as Howard and Spelman, about $50K. So $10,000 off of $50K, I'm in debt. So we're gonna pass that along. Georgia State, I received the Founder Scholarship, which is for $3,000 a year. Mind you, I live in Georgia, so Georgia State is already relatively cheap. Well, minus housing. That's what they don't tell you, because plus housing, Georgia State is pretty expensive. But I was also in the running for their presidential scholarship, but I didn't get it. But I didn't really want to go to Georgia State anyway, because, you know, HBCU over here. Now, FAMU. I'm going to talk about my FAMU process in my FAMU video. I'm going to have a Dear FAMU 2026 and Beyond video. I'm going to talk all about everything FAMU. FAMU has put me through the gutter. They have put me through everything, but that is okay because I am a rebel, okay? For FAMU, I was supposed to get $15K a year. I'm not gonna talk bad about my school online because they're gonna pull this up, and no. I thought I was supposed to get $15K. They changed that to $10K. So I'm getting $10,000 a year from FAMU, but FAMU has so many opportunities for you to get scholarships, and for me, all of my money is coming from the School of Business. I went through a whole situation with the scholarship office about my test score and me receiving a scholarship for my test score. That's a whole other story. I'll talk about that in my FAMU video. But for FAMU, I'm receiving $10,000 from the School of Business. So make sure whatever school you go to, talk to the school that you're going to, not the institution, but the school. So the School of Business, the School of Fine Arts, the School of Education, the School of Sciences, the School of Social Sciences. Talk to them about scholarship opportunities because they are there. That is where my entire scholarship from FAMU, well, not entire scholarship, that's where majority of my scholarship from FAMU is coming from. So talk to them. If I wouldn't have reached out to the School of Business, I would not have my scholarship and I would not be going to FAMU. I would be a golden tiger at Tuskegee if I didn't have my scholarship from FAMU, okay? So yes, now with that, make sure you apply to scholarships within the school's departments. I just said that. Scholarships come after admissions and before financial aid. I did not know that. So when you receive your acceptance letter, there's not going to be any money attached to it. The money comes later. Just know that. I just want to say that because I know that. That's the end of this video. I'm just going to run down over everything, you know, little tips and everything. Make sure you watch the first video because that's really where I run down on everything. But first things first, make sure you test, get the SAT score up, because the SAT score is where these merit scholarships come in. Make sure you apply early action, early decision time-wise, because that's how you get these scholarships. These schools have deadlines for you to be able to receive a merit scholarship. You have to apply and have everything in before like November. So make sure you have your application in before November. My application, all of my college stuff was submitted before the end of August. So be on that type of time, okay? Now, make sure you build your resume. Make sure you get your recommendations before the end of the first month of school. Make sure you apply early action, early decision if able. Make sure you're consistent with your HBCU, especially. Email them, call them, do what you gotta do, leave voicemails, email everybody. If you believe you qualify for a scholarship, you need to be talking to everybody. For me, one key thing before I leave, when you are trying to talk to an HBCU and you're sending an email, send that email to the person you need to send it to, but you need to also CC and BCC everybody else that's in that department. So if you're talking to the Office of Admissions, then email the Office of Admissions, but I'm also gonna CC or BCC the director, the recruiter, the whatever. I'm gonna email every person that works in that office on that email because they don't like to respond, okay? And even regular universities, they don't like to respond to your emails. They don't like to answer your calls. But if you stay persistent and if you know, be on their ass, they're going to respond, okay? So that's it for this video. If there's any questions you have, because you know I'll be rumbling and we already 25 minutes in, then let me know. Other than that, I will see y'all in the next video. Let me see what the next video is. I'm gonna try and record it so I can get it out because I submitted my last video a long time ago. The next video is on scholarships. So if you want more information on scholarships, that will be in my next video. But other than that, that is a wrap. That is a wrap for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure you give it a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see y'all in the next one.